Nana Shastra Virnaikana Kanipona Sadharma Samstapako Lokana Mitakarino Tibhupane Manya Saranya Karo Sada Krishna Padaravinda Vachana Nande Namatalika Vande Upasanatana Raghujuga Shri Jiva Gopalaka. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizing and studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Omajnana Timandasya Jnanasala Slaka Saksuramritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So we are on chapter 6 of the Nectar of Devotion. In the first chapters, we have learned factually what pure devotion means. We heard in the beginning that the second chapter that there are 6 characteristics of devotional service. That there are 3 stages. That sadhana bhakti, and then bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. But we will learn sadhana bhakti as 2 divisions also, which is vaidhi and raganuga. Vaidhi, following regulations, and raganuga means spontaneous. That beside these points, we have addressed other elements of pure devotional service. One must be free from 2 witches. Rupa Goswami said mukti, bhukti and mukti, the sense of enjoying things in this world. Bhukti, mukti, one must give up the desire for liberation. That's an obstacle in pure devotional service. We have also heard about characteristics of pure devotional service. It's independent from jnana and karma. That one must not perform atonement for if one performs accidentally sins. This is the mystical potency of devotional service. Rupa Goswami said, you just continue your devotional service and they will be counteracted, provided the sin was accidental. Now, after understanding what's pure devotional service, now we will learn how factually to discharge the devotional service, how to do it. And we will learn of 64 items of sadhana bhakti which are described in chapter 6. And the next chapters from 17 till 14, there we have Rupa Goswami. He gives evidence from the scriptures for all these items. So they are not whimsically, they are based on the scriptures, and Srila Prabhupada comments on that. So in chapter 6, these 64 items, they are summarized first and categorized. Here on the screen you see the categories. So Sanatan Goswami compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas because Lord Chaitanya asked him to do that. Madhya Lila, in chapters 21 to 24, instructions to Sanatan Goswami. And at the end of the instructions, that there Lord Chaitanya says to instruct Sanatan Goswami, now you should write a book on Vaishnava Achar, Vaishnava behavior. And so Sanatan Goswami, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, in cooperation with Gopal Bhatta Goswami, has compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas. So in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, you find many rules and regulations to be followed by devotees. So many that, but Rupa Goswami mentions only 64, the very important items for our benefit. That he mentions only basic principles, not details. And Srila Prabhupada explains what is a basic principle and what is a detail. That, like he says, a basic principle is to accept the spiritual master. And then a detail is exactly how one follows the instructions of his spiritual masters is considered a detail. If one follows the instruction of the spiritual master and the instruction is different from the instructions of another spiritual master, that is called detailed information. But the basic principle of accepting a spiritual master is good everywhere. That although the detail may be different. You see on the screen this categorization of these 64 items. 20 items are of primary importance. And then you have the first 10 are things, items of primary importance to do, things we should do. And the next 10 are things not to do, to avoid. So the first 10 principles are practically necessities for beginning devotional service in regulative principles. So they are very important, especially the first 3. In the beginning, if a neophyte devotee observes the above-mentioned 10 principles, Rupa Goswami says, surely he will quickly make good advancement in Krishna consciousness. And then about the next 10 items, from 11 to 12, things to avoid, that Rupa Goswami writes, without following the above-mentioned 10 principles, one cannot properly elevate oneself to the platform of sadhana, bhakti, or devotional service. Out of the 20 items, the first 3, namely, and accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, then taking initiation from him, second, third, serving him, they are of the most important. taking shelter of a spiritual master, taking initiation, and serving him. So these are of most important, these 21st items, and the next 40, they are additional items. And these 44 additional items, they are divided also in two. The first from item 25 to 25, 21 to 59, they are items of sadhana, Rupa Goswami said. And the last 5 items are called the most important items of devotional service. And we will dedicate Rupa Goswami dedicates there or a whole chapter on these 5 most effective items. It is Srila Prabhupada who puts them in a chapter because he wrote a summary study, because the nectar of devotion is very broad, that 2,000 verses we cannot discuss that, although in the next chapter we will start to discuss some of these items in detail, and there I will quote from the original Sanskrit of Nectar of Devotion. But so there are 5 most important items, and they are deity worship, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, Sankirtan, and living Sankirtan, chanting of the holy name, and living in Mathura, in a holy place. So Rupa Goswami, he says the 64 items of devotional service should include all our activities of the body, mind, and speech. Everything we do. The regulative principle of devotional service enjoins that all our senses must be employed in the service of the Lord. And in the next chapters, evidence from the scriptures for these 64 items will be given. So that is what is in these chapters. That we will not go in all this list and these details, but we will straight start to discuss them in detail in chapter 7. And there we start with the first, and that is from the original Sanskrit of Nectar of Devotion. Shri Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam Vishramba Guru Seva Sadhu Vartmana Vartanam Sadharma Pricha. So Shri Krishna Diksha Shikshanam, one takes shelter from the Guru and start to receive Shiksha, instructions. One start learning from the spiritual master. So in the text here, the Srila Prabhupada mentions the references that Rupa Goswami gives, evidence for each of these items. And the Guru Padasraya, taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, is the first. So he quotes from the 11th chapter. for 11th canto, chapter 3, text 21, Prabhuda Navayogendra is instructing King Nimi. And he says, in the material world, there is no happiness. Everyone serious of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. What are the qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master? We will learn that, but first we'll look back at our verse, that it said is Vishramba Guru Seva. Vishramba Guru Seva, serve the Guru with affection. Sadhu Vartmana Vartanam, to follow in the footsteps of the saintly people. That Sadhu refers here to other acharyas. We learn from others also, not alone from the spiritual master. And said, Sadharma Pritcha, we inquire about the principles of religion. That's the details of the verse. But then here in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada, he integrates a verse, this verse from Maharaj Prabhuda to King Nimi, that we will first look at a verse he's paraphrasing, that in the purport, and that is the verse Tasma Garum Pavacheta Shikhnasa Shreya Uttamam Sapta Parasanisna Brahmanu Parasamashvitam. Therefore, any person who seriously desires a real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material conditions, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. So these are characteristics of a bona fide spiritual master. He has realized the scriptures, he can convince others about it. Now let's see. Now we will read the purport of Srila Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion. And we will see how Srila Prabhupada integrates that. This verse. I think this verse is Tasma from Prabhachida. I think that's also a verse of it's a verse Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Yeah, it's on the board. Yeah, it's on the slide. It's verse 11.3.21. So, my dear king, please know for certain in the material world there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think there is happiness here, because the place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. That so any person who is seriously desirous of achieving a real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of by initiation. So that is, but then Prabhupada Yogendra continues that That's what I just read. And then, yeah. So the qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the scriptures by the conclusion of the scriptures, by deliberation and arguments, and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material conditions, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual master. So that's integrated in Srila Prabhupada's purpose. Everyone should try to find such bona fide spiritual masters in order to fulfill his mission, which is to transfer himself to the plane of spiritual bliss. First Diksha, and then Shiksha, the learning. The Guru Parampara is mainly a Shiksha line. If we look at our Guru Parampara, like that Gargishore Das Badaji was taking Shiksha from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur was attending the lectures of Jagannath Das Babaji, that, but they were only related to Shiksha. Our line also Diksha, but mostly it keeps together with Shiksha instructions. So Shiksha is a bona fide connection of the Guru Parampara, not only Shiksha. What's the difference between Shiksha and Diksha and Shiksha? Diksha, the spiritual, is compared to there are three main deities in Vrindavan. And the first deity, Radha Madan Mohan, who attracts devotees. That the first attraction, the Diksha explains to the disciple that he is a part and parcel of Krishna. There is Krishna, and the natural link between the living entity and Krishna is devotional service. So he is establishing Sambandha Jnana, our relationship with Krishna. But then how to act in that relationship is explained by the Shiksha Guru. And that's like, Diksha is like an enrollment at the university. And then the student must learn that Diksha is also important because we take vows at that time. Diksha is more in the heart. It's a formalization so that the learning can go on. Shiksha, the spiritual master, connects us with the Guru Parampara, but he has no monopoly on the Guru Parampara. You can take Shiksha from others also. So there is Shiksha means transfer of instruction. That so Srila Rupa Goswami quotes also other verses as evidence. Who is the bona fide spiritual master? Pacha Vegam Asakroda Vegam Shiva Vegam Uttarapasta Vegam Etam Vegam Yovaseta Dira Sarvam Apimam Sarvam Apinam Nasishya. These are words. That, but it means one was controlled his urge of speech. Vegan, but one was controlled, or one who can tolerate the urges of the mind and anger. That one who control the tongue, the stomach, and the genitals. He can make disciples all over the world. So that's also a verse that Rupa Goswami quotes as evidence. That so one who is fortunate enough to come under the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, is sure to transfer the path of spiritual salvation without any doubt. Accepting initiation from a spiritual master or receiving instructions from him. So now then he quotes the verses that we have just discussed. That and then yes, for accepting the spiritual master. Now, Srila Prabhupada in our movement is the preeminent Shiksha of all ISKCON. We are connected to Srila Prabhupada through his books. Therefore, the spiritual master in our movement is Srila Prabhupada's representative, and at the same time, we respect those outside of ISKCON, but from a distance, because they have another mood and they have other priorities. That this is, yeah, because their understanding may be different from Srila Prabhupada's moods. Now, taking shelter of a spiritual master means that the guru and the disciple is testing each other. The point is, I want to accept this person as guru, but is this person following Shastra and Srila Prabhupada? Of course, by testing, one should not think oneself that one is superior to the guru, but one must verify that. So the relationship between the disciple and the guru is the most important relationship we can ever have. Therefore, it's so important. We evaluate and take shelter of the guru, but also the spiritual master will test the disciple. That in our movement, then when the aspirant disciple wants to take initiation, then the local temple president must give initiation. That must give a recommendation for initiation to that, and before receiving initiation, one must at least for 1 or 2 years chant 16 rounds and follow the regulative principles already. That so these are important points. That so one should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respect and veneration for the spiritual master. That so that's the important part, that the hearing and speaking of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is a process by which one can elevate oneself to serving and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada writes. So one should serve the spiritual master with faith and confidence. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse, which is quoted by Rupa Goswami, the Acharya Mavijanyam Navmanyeti Karichit Namarcha Buddha Suyetu Sarvadeva Maya Guru. One should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. We understand by taking initiation that Lord Krishna's grace will manifest to us through the spiritual master. That so we see Acharya Krishna says Acharya, the spiritual master. He's not saying the Diksha Guru. No. It's further mentioned in the Uddhav Gita that Siksha and Diksha are on the same level, must be considered as equal, that they are equally dear to me, Krishna says. So to make a distinction between Diksha and Siksha, my Diksha Guru is better than this, than this Siksha Guru or that Siksha Guru, is Vaishnava Aparat factor. And that's never made by the neophyte. We have to be very careful with that. It's not that they are on the same level, but they must be given the same respect, and one should not discriminate between them. That one should hear from everyone who is more advanced than us. That because both are equally dear to Krishna. So, Vishrambena Guru Seva, one starts serving the spiritual master. So we, first, on this previous point first, this first, Rupa Goswami says, so the spiritual master must be accepted not only as my representative, but as my very self, Krishna says. He must never be considered on the same level with an ordinary human being. So, Siksha or Diksha. One should never be envious of the spiritual master, as one may be envious of an ordinary person. That the spiritual master should always be seen as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by serving the spiritual master, one is able to serve all demigods. That Sarvadeva Maya Guru, all the qualities of the demigods reside in the heart of the spiritual master. So this is, So in ISKCON, not many disciples may serve the Guru personally, yet we hear from the spiritual master and try to understand the mood of the spiritual master. We need to find out what the spiritual master wants us to do. Srila Prabhupada desired that all initiated devotees must have a responsible, committed service. That is how our relationship with Krishna will become real and tangible. And then the next line from Rupa Goswami's verse, Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam. That so one should, following the footsteps of saintly persons, because that strictly following in the footsteps of the saintly persons. So all these principles we discuss here, they should be strictly followed because they are principles of the revealed scriptures. Sahajas, they take that cheaply, that they have imagined everything to be cheap. They have their own concocted ideas and do not follow the scriptural injunctions. Such persons are simply creating a disturbance in devotional service. And that is mentioned in Nectar of Devotion. I get this, 1201, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidimi Vina Akantkiyare bhakti upatachaiva kalpate. The devotional service to the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literature like the Upanishads, Puranas, Narada Pancharatra, etc. is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. That in the purport, Srila Prabhupada refers to Buddha. We know that Buddha is Krishna, incarnation of Krishna, but the followers of Buddha are not accepted as devotees. That any religious principle which denies the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not accepted and is called atheism, Srila Prabhupada said. Atheism means defying the authority of the Vedas. The conclusion of the Vedas, of the essence of the Vedas, is Vedasa Sarvameva Vedya, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. I'm to be known by the Vedas. And also decrying the great acharyas who teach Vedic scriptures for the benefit of people in general. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there Buddha, it is said, appeared to bewilder the atheistic class of man. Why should Krishna come and propagate atheistic principles? The answer is that it was the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wanted to end the violence which was being committed in the name of the Vedas. So-called religionists were falsely using the Vedas to justify violent acts such as meat eating. And Lord Buddha came to lead the fallen people away from such false interpretation of the Vedas. Lord Buddha tricked them. Now the next point is Saddharma Pritcha, inquiring about religious principles. In the Naradiya Purana it is said, if one is actually very serious about devotional service, then all his purposes will be served without any delay. So one should be prepared. First, I want to go back to this Saddharma Pritcha. Of course, inquiring how I can make spiritual advancement. So, and the example is of course Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning, he's asking about Dharma, and at the end, his heart is transformed. We see in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Dhammakshetra, Kurukshetra, Samveda, Yatsava. Dhritarashtra is inquiring, but its inquiry is superficial. It's not going to surrender to Krishna. But Arjuna's inquiring is different. 2:7. Yashreyasya nishitam bruita me. I'm asking you, tell me what's best for me. That's the question. It's broader than just the situation on the battlefield. It's asking what's the right path of life. Thus, one must be prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. So the next, then Rupa Goswami quotes from the Padma Purana. For one who has given up material sense enjoyment and has accepted the principles of devotional service, the opulence of Vishnu Loka, the kingdom, is awaiting. now let's see. We will first analyze this first, and some of the points mentioned in Nectar of Devotion, one by one they are discussed by Srila Prabhupada. Yavatarta Vartita Harivasara Summano Datri Avastadi Gauravam Sri Krishna Vimukha Sangratya Yat Artanu Vartita. So one should take as much as needed that other direction. For Krishna, we should be prepared to give up everything for material, everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. And this is a verse we quoted. For one who is giving up his material sense enjoyment and has accepted the principles of devotional service, the opulence of Vishnu Loka is awaiting. So, if the heart is full of material things, there is no place left for Krishna. If we can give up this material attachment in our heart, then that gives Krishna the possibility to enter our heart, and then we become attracted to him. So we have to open our heart. Like also with the chanting, we have to open our heart. Try to give our love to Krishna. If we are chanting and the mind is occupied with something else while chanting, then our heart is closed. You have to open it. So Yat Artanu Vartita. So this starts with following the four relative principles and the giving up of things not related to Krishna consciousness. Accepting what is necessary, simply living and high thinking. So there are Harishvara Samano. This is the purpose. Harishvara Samana means observing fasting on Ekadashi. Just a moment. Just want to see how the slides are corresponding with my. Okay, because there is one point here that it's not on the slides, and I want to discuss that first. This is residing in a sacred place. That Rupa Goswami gives evidence of that. Of course, residing in a sacred place, if we install the deity in our house and worship the deity, then the house becomes also a sacred place. But it gives evidence from the Skanda Purana, living in Dvarka. One who lives in Dvarka gets elevation to the Vaikuntha Lokas and gets all the profits of Sarupya Mukti. Sarupya Mukti is the privilege of having the same four-handed bodily features as Narayan. And then the Brahma Purana, there it speaks about the residence of Purushottam Kshetra, Jagannath Puri. The transcendental significance of Purushottam Kshetra, which is the 80 square mile field of Lord Jagannath, cannot be properly described. Even the demigods from the higher planetary systems see the inhabitants of this Jagannath Puri as having exactly the same bodily features possessed by one in Vaikuntha. That is, the demigods see the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri as being four-handed. And then about the places where the Ganges flows. It is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. They are all also sacred places. That the waters of the Ganges are always carrying the flavor of tulsi offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. And as such, the waters of the Ganges are ever flowing, spreading the glories of Lord Krishna. Wherever the waters of the Ganges are flowing, will be sanctified both externally and internally. That, and then we come at that. Yes, yat artuna vartita. We should take as much as needed. That so there. Rupa Goswami quotes from the Naradiya Purana. One should not accept more than necessary if he is serious about discharging devotional service. Chanting 16 rounds is necessary. Yeah. So one should be prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. Just get what you need. And then we can come back to this Ekadashi, observing fasting on Ekadashi. So what's the purpose of Ekadashi? To redirect our consciousness from material to Krishna. We chant more, we hear more, and absorb our consciousness more in Krishna. So these Ekadashi days are very potent, and you will make more quickly advancement through the stage of anartha nivritti, the purification of the heart, on these days. And that is confirmed by the scriptures. The Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Rupa Goswami says, observing fasting on Ekadashi, one becomes freed from the reactions to sinful activities and advances in pious life. So the basic principle is not just to fast, but it's to increase one's faith for Govinda or God. And on that day, we minimize the demands of the body or engage in the service of the Lord. If we fast, we have more time for direct devotional activities. So devotees, they are not interested in doing Ekadashi for material benefits. You have many Karmakanda scriptures. If you do Ekadashi on that day, you have that benefit, that benefit, that benefit, that benefit, and stories that you can hear that a devotee is not interested in that, and that is Karmakanda. That we don't want pious results out of that. No, we do Ekadashi, we do not it for Karmakanda purposes. Fasting is one part of Ekadashi, but the other part is increasing our devotional service. You become so absorbed in your devotional service, you forget about the body and its eating. If you are very busy in devotional service on Ekadashi, chanting around and so on, then there will be no problem for fasting. And then Rupa Goswami speaks about the banyan tree, Datri Avastadi Gauravam, offering all respects to the banyan tree. Yeah. Oh, I will first read what's in Srila Prabhupada writes. You will see it's not limited limiting it to the banyan tree. That the Skanda Purana said, one who offers respect to the tulsi plant and the amalaka trees, and offers respect to the cows and the Brahmins, and serves the Vaishnavas by offering them respectful obeisances and meditate upon them. So all these processes will help the devotee to diminish the reactions to his past sinful activities. So this is the giving of respect, especially, that will help to purify one. So by respecting what is connected with Krishna, we make spiritual advancement. Then our sinful reactions diminish and we come closer to Krishna. And then Rupa Goswami says, Shri Krishna Vimukha Sangatyag. Give up the association of non-devotees. So Srila Prabhupada gives heavy references on how dangerous association of non-devotees can be. And I read a few of them. A Vaishnava should always give up the association of non-devotees, Lord Chaitanya said. And Lord Chaitanya said there are two kinds of non-devotees. The first one is one who is against the supremacy of Krishna. And the second one is the one who is too materialistic. In the Katyayana Samhita is mentioned, even if one is forced to live in a cage of iron or in the midst of a blazing fire, he should accept this position rather than to live with non-devotees. In the Vishnu Sastra, something similar. One should prefer to embrace a snake, a tiger, or an alligator rather than associate with persons who are worshippers of various demigods and who are impelled by material desires. So we have next point. Yes. Yeah, it says, Srila Prabhupada gives, before going into that point, on the previous point of this giving up the company of non-devotees, Srila Prabhupada says, worshipping a certain demigod to achieve some material gain. That so many, they can appear to be devotees, that worshipping those who worship a certain demigods and achieve material, but they are not devotees. We should not associate with them. We should also not associate with the impersonalist. Impersonalists say you can do whatever worship you want. You choose the demigod, and all go to the same destination. We should also avoid them very carefully. There are many more quotes in the Srila Prabhupada's gift. But now we come to this Siddhyadi Ananu Banditvam. We should not accept too many disciples and not build too many temples or read too many books. So the first thing Srila Prabhupada writes, the guru should not feel obliged to any of the disciples because they give him some favor. And there is no need to read so many books for your spiritual advancement. What's the importance, Srila Prabhupada says? But for your spiritual advancement in devotional service, you read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and that is sufficient, he says. That, and he quotes also about his accepting of disciples. Too many disciples. He quotes from the Bhagavatam, 7, Canto 7, Chapter 13, Text 8. There Narada Muni is instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira. The whole 7th canto is doing that. But so sannyasis are forbidden to accept as a disciple anyone who is not fit. That so, but Srila Prabhupada and quotes for that principle are given. That, but Srila Prabhupada writes, if someone is seriously inclined to become a disciple, the sannyasi always accept him. That because without increasing the number of disciples, there is no propagation of the cult of Krishna consciousness. So a sannyasi may accept an unfit disciple, and later on, by the mercy of the bona fide spiritual master, the disciple is called elevated. However, increasing the number of disciples for prestige or honor will surely fall down in the matter of executing Krishna consciousness. So and then Srila Prabhupada writes also, yes, one should not be enthusiastic to build temples. That so, and he writes building temples, but if someone comes forward to offer service, the same reluctant acharya will encourage the building of costly temples by such servitors. But one should not be interested to build temples on his own accord with great endeavor. No, that not. That goes back to Santa Sarasvati Maharaj said, if one has money, instead of constructing costly temples, one should spend his money for the publication of authorized books in different languages for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. Of course, about his accepting many disciples, if you accept disciples, you get their reactions. 1/6 of that's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. A king also, when he gets 1/6 of the pious reaction activities and 1/6 of the sinful reactions of the people. And the spiritual master also. From the moment you accept someone as shiksha and you guide them, you get their karma. That and you get also their good reactions. But it means when you take up the function as guru, one must have an adhikar. This adhikar will determine how much we can have contact in material energy and can absorb these simple reactions. Also about this building of this temple, why does Rupa Goswami says don't build many temples? Otherwise, one gets too money-minded. We build temples to glorify Krishna. We need sufficient time to connect with Krishna through all the limbs of devotional service, Shravana, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, that hearing, chanting, remember Krishna, and not always not engaging in temple, in being absorbed 24 hours in building a temple. So that's the double slide. So not take many disciples. Every disciple is expected to share Krishna consciousness with others. So in that sense, everyone becomes a guru, kind of guru. Srila Prabhupada said, I want all my daughters to become spiritual masters and make disciples all over the world. That, of course, there are the qualifications of a guru. Srila Prabhupada said, I want them, but you don't become automatically. You must have the adhikar. Yeah. Then, yeah, one should not take too many disciples. So if you accept a disciple, this disciple must want to be disciplined, must work under authority, especially brahmacharis. If that quality is not there, they should not live in a temple. That's what Rupa Goswami, he says, don't accept them. So one should not accept disciples, 1 year testing. But Srila Prabhupada, he deviated from that because it was an emergency to spread Krishna consciousness and build the infrastructure of ISKCON. But there was a price for that. Many fell down that could not follow it. Yes. So don't read too many books. One should focus on reading Srila Prabhupada's books. First, understand the Gaudiya Siddhanta. If you don't are not fixed in that and you read other books, you will become bewildered. Of course, one may have to read things related to one's service. You have a certain service and you read things about that, so that you become more skilled. Then Vyavahara Akarpanam, no duplicity in our worldly dealings. Srila Prabhupada said straightforwardness in ordinary dealings and equilibrium in loss and gain. Yes, one should not be dishonest. Devotional service is not a license to become immoral. So that's the first. These are 4 points here on the screen, and these are the 4 last one we discussed. This is the first one, Vyavahara Akarpanyam. So one should not be dishonest. Devotional service is not a license to become immoral. Devotees should be in sattva gun, which means you are always truthful, straightforward. That's the best way. Be also truthful with yourself. Do not present yourself as on a different level than you are. Sukat avasa vartita. Not becoming overwhelmed by material emotions. We see that an example is given here. Arjuna, when Abhimanyu was killed, he was devastated. But he still was fighting. He was still doing his duty. We should not become overwhelmed by our emotions. So we should not become subject to lamentation. Because the Padma Purana said, we win the heart of a person who is overpowered by lamentation and anger. There is no possibility of Krishna's being manifested. And then the next matter is an Anyadeva avagya. One should not disrespect devotees. So we should not perform vows for devatas, for demigods. We do Kevala Bhakti, pure Bhakti. That's the Bhakti we have, which has been described in the first 6 chapters of this Nectar of Devotion. So, but one should not neglect giving respect to the demigods. But a Vaishnava is not a devotee of a demigod. It's said in the Padma Purana, Krishna or Hari is the spiritual master of all demigods, and therefore he is always worshipable. But this does not mean that one should not offer respect to the demigods. And then the last point, Bhutana Anutvaga Daita. One should not give pain to any living entity. So there is a statement in the Mahabharata, a person who does not disturb or cause painful action in the mind of any living entity, who treats everyone like a loving father does his children, whose heart is so pure, surely very soon becomes favored by the Supreme Personality of God. So we see in our society, you have these organizations who are against cruelty against animals. But if you ask them, are you vegetarian? They say no. So that's hypocrisy. That in the so-called civilized society, there is sometimes agitation against cruelty to animals, but at the same time, they maintain regular slaughterhouses. That a Vaishnava is not like that. That a Vaishnava cannot support animal slaughter or give pain to any other living entity. So this was an introduction of the first principles, basic principles of the 64 items of devotional service. If there's any question, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I have a lot of questions because we covered a lot of topics here, but I will ask from the beginning. I was making some notes. So the first question is about shelter, taking shelter, and you explained that taking shelter means when the guru kinds of test if the disciple is right, and the disciple is also testing if the guru is right for him. That is what you explained, right? Is my understanding?
Yes, that's correct.
But then there is a process of taking shelter of Prabhupada. How does that work? Because we are not testing Prabhupada, definitely. He is beyond testing. So
no. So when you come in contact with Krishna consciousness, you first establish your relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And that must be done for 6 months, 1 year. And when you have understood the basics of Krishna consciousness, then you can consider taking shelter of a guru, a living guru, but not before. And testing means that you should see whether this spiritual master says the same thing as Srila Prabhupada, that he follows the scriptures. Because the guru is a representative of Prabhupada and the other acharyas. He must say the same thing. And he must act in accordance with what he's doing. Because we have seen that in the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada writes, one should take shelter of an Uttam Adhikar. One can also take shelter of a Madhyam Adhikar, but the Madhyam Adhikar cannot guide his disciples so well because he cannot bring them to explain how to go to Prema because he did not yet achieve that. And an Uttamadikar, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport of Bhagavad Gita 9.3, Uttamadikar, there's no chance of falling down. A Madhyamadikar that does not fall down. So that means that a Madhyamadikar is one who follows very strictly all rules and regulations, that he's on the liberated platform. Because in the 80s, so many took shelter of sannyasis and gurus at that time. There were the zonal acharyas, it's a whole history. But of the 12 zonal acharyas, more than half fell down. So that means they were not on the Madhyama platform. They were still neophytes. And that's a problem. It's the disciple of it's the duty of the aspiring disciple to test, to see where they are. So the point is, don't take initiation too quickly. But what is a good test? If someone is already 30, 40, 50 years in the movement and never fell down, you can be assured this person must have a certain level of advancement. But in the 80s, that was not there. The gurus, they were just appointed guru. They were themselves in the movement 5 or 10 years, and it was problematic. Does that help to understand that?
Yes, Maharaj, it does. I have a follow-on question on that if there is time. Otherwise, I can discuss later as well. Is it okay?
Okay, yeah.
So, what is the between a diksha and a shiksha? See, again, I'm talking very much from my personal perspective. I am with this movement for 6 years now. I've been following the regulative principles for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I am aspiring a spiritual master, but there is a problem with Diksha because of the lockdown and because, as you said, we have to find a guru and the guru should like us and we should, the whole taking the shelter process. So what is the good amount of time that we should have for this shelter process? What in your view? So 1 year, 2 year?
It depends that one has to test the guru, but finally it's also Krishna who brings you to a bona fide guru. But still one must test that it's difficult to put some timeline of it. Mm-hmm. But I see in my own case that when after I came in contact with Bhakti Charamaj, that because when I came to the movement, there was a great upheaval because in the 80s, so many gurus fell down. I know the devotees who had already taken 3 times reinitiation. It was very dramatic at that time. That, but then I was thinking, observing all of that, I was thinking I will not take so quickly initiation. That, but then Bhakti Maharaj came. And Bhakti Maharaj, he was always putting Prabhupada in the center. That he was a Prabhupada Bhakta. And he said, yeah, I'm not a spiritual master. The only thing I can do is I can connect you with Prabhupada. That. And then he said also that, yeah, he gave the following instructions to all his disciples. First, never leave the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Second instruction, never leave ISKCON. Third instruction, take shelter of everyone who is more advanced than you. And based on these instructions, I agreed to receive initiation from him. I received initiation from him, and I took shelter of Prahlad Nanda Maharaj. He instructed me really, mostly in devotional service. That so it's not that you have a Diksha Guru and you have only to follow his instruction. That's a neophyte instruction. That's a neophyte understanding. The Diksha Guru formalizes the process and is your official connection. Then after that, you can take Shiksha from whoever that who is more advanced than you. So that's what I did. That's Prahlad Nanda Maharaj trained me in preaching. I was traveling with him, and I was his secretary because I was the secretary of the European GBC at that time, and he was the chairman. And we were traveling to Europe, especially to the Balkan, in very dangerous situation. That in Serbia and so on, just after the war. But he was giving a lecture, and after that, he was speaking for 20 minutes, and then I was speaking 20 minutes. And then in private, he would give me feedback, sometimes sweet, sometimes not so sweet, but I learned to preach according to Siddhanta. That's what I learned from Prahlad Nanda Maharaj. He's one of my Shiksha gurus. But I learned the Bhagavatam during the Bhaktivedanta and Bhaktivedanta course from Burijan Prabhu and Narayani Mataji. They are also my Shiksha gurus. That I learned tolerance for Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu. I traveled with him. He was GBC. I was in his zone, and we had to tolerate so many things. He had to tolerate so many things. I saw that, and I learned from Yadunanda Swami now. I was a brahmacharya at that time. I learned from him the importance of friendship in devotional service. That I learned from Prema Siddhananda Prabhu. He was head pujari in Radhadesh. He taught me everything about deity worship. So he was my guru in deity worship. You see where they are good in, and you learn that from them. Like that, we are a family in ISKCON. And you learn. You can accept as much as Shiksha gurus as you want, but they must be qualified. You must learn to observe them on what level are they. And that requires an expertise. And it takes some time before you have that. So it's good to wait, not too quickly. When you are sure, then you can proceed. proceed. You feel, yeah. It's also at the same time a connection heart to heart. That's difficult to explain, but that I felt immediately Bhaktisiddhara Maharaj is my guru, but still I was not just acting on that feeling. I was checking also that and that must be done in the beginning, because it's our responsibility. If the guru falls down, you don't have to. It's your responsibility. It's not another's fault. It's your fault if that happens. Because one must observe: is this person steady in devotional service and so on? Well, yeah, much more to say about that, but does that help you?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much for your time and giving your personal experience. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Something else?
I have lots of more questions. I think I'll save it for, I will write to you and talk to you offline. I think we are running out of time.
Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the next class is on Friday evening.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Sai Prabhupada. Hare Bol. Hare Bol.
Hari.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Bol.